Honorable members, I declare this sitting of the 12th Parliament to be duly constituted and in session. The clerk will lead us in prayer.
Almighty God, we here gathered together, we most humbly beseech thee to guide us in all our consultations, so that we may together build a land where knowledge is free, where the mind is without fear, and the head is held high, and where words come from the depth of truth. Grant us, O God, thy aid and guidance, so that we may deal justly with the several causes that come before us, laying aside all private interests, prejudices, and personal preferences, so that the result of our counsel may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of free religion, the preservation of justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the President, and the peace and prosperity of Guyana. Grant us, O God, the vision so to lead, that all the people of this fair land may enter into that state of brotherhood and unity, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action.
Amen. Please be seated.
Messages from the President. Announcements by the Speaker. Presentation of petitions. Presentation of papers and reports, etc.
Honorable Minister of Public Works.
Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly 1. The Customs Amendment of the First Schedule, Order 2020, number 75 of 2020. 2. The Customs Amendment of Second Schedule, Order 2020, number 76 of 2020. 3. The Income Tax in Aid of Industry Amendment Order 2020, number 77 of 2020. 4. The Value Added Tax Amendment of Schedule 1 and 2, Order 2020, number 78 of 2020. And 5, the Value Added Tax Amendment Regulations 2020, number 2 of 2020.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I present to the Assembly the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Amendment of First Schedule, Regulations 2020, number 3 of 2020.
Reports from committees. Oral questions without notice.
Honorable Member, Mr. Christopher Jones.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and I thank you for your indulgence. Could the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs state what are the causes, circumstances, and conditions that led to the disturbance on the 19th of September 2020 that resulted in the death of prisoners at the Lusignan prison?
Honorable Member, you can proceed with the other two parts of the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, could the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs state the number of prisoners killed, injured, and/or hospitalized, the nature and the extent of their injuries, and the cause of their death? Further, several prisoners were tested positive for COVID-19. Can the Honorable Minister state What measures are in place for the World Health Organization / PAHO guidelines, requirements, and procedures for social distancing, etc., to be observed at the said prisons?
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister of Home Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the honorary member for the genuine interest she has in this matter, like everyone else. Mr. Speaker, the Assembly may recall last Thursday in my presentation to this Honorable House, where I refer to the conditions specifically at the Lusignan prison. And I identified that there was severe congestion there, and that we were, at that very time, working to improve the conditions to allow for better separation between the prisoners. Members may also recall two prior issues in respect which have led to congestion at the Lusignan prison. And these relate to the fire at the Georgetown prison, the Camp Street prison, which resulted in a large number of prisoners from Georgetown being transferred to Lusignan. And then only this year, I believe in July itself, there was a fire which destroyed the Lusignan prison, the main building, which resulted in those prisoners being transferred to what were termed holding bays. Holding bays which are constructed initially to hold the prisoners from Camp Street. The result was, and I said it in this house, was that we have over 570 prisoners who were lying very close to each other. And 3 days after I became a minister, I visited that prison. I identified the problems there, and we set about putting in place plans for immediate facilities to expand the separation between the prisoners and to reduce the congestion. I also said that we were trying to accelerate the program which was delayed and which is being carried out by under the aegis of the former, or the Minister then of Public Security, in relation to the Mazruni prison, the Georgetown prison, and further plans in relation to the New Amsterdam prison. And I did say that the resort which was on the way and which we were caught in respect of those arrangements were delayed due to COVID, and apparently were too expensive in terms of getting those arrangements put quickly in place. In any event, on becoming a minister and seeing the conditions at the Lusignan prison, I said that we must get the contractors to immediately restart the works at the Camp Street prison. So, in terms of the causes, original, prior, overarching, they relate to the issues which happened at the Camp Street prison and more latterly at the Lusignan prison at the burning of its day. And I might remind that at the Camp Street prison, 17 prisoners died immediately and then one later, in terms of the fire and the results of what the occurrence there. The immediate circumstances on the 19th of September, I would say started on the 18th, actually, in the morning of the 18th, the prisoners at Lusignan refused to take breakfast. We spoke with the prison authorities. We asked that they try to get them to settle down, and we were happy that they took the midday meal and the subsequent meal. On the following day, again there was a reoccurrence of the refusal of meals. And it appeared that because there is an admixture given on the circumstances, that remand prisoners hardcore prisoners, petty offenders are all intermixed in the several different ways, and they receive with gangs and so on. That early in fact, on Friday morning, missiles were thrown. On Saturday, we thought that by midday they would have taken their meals and that conditions would have settled down. They were asking to see the minister, and I delayed until after one, hoping that they would have taken lunch, which they hadn't done. In the meantime, in discussions with the Honorable Minister Frank Anthony, we understood then that some 40 prisoners were infected with COVID, which I indicated in my discussion here on Thursday that we had the risk of the pandemic at that prison. So, Honorable Minister Frank and I, he decided to accompany me. I decided to try to placate and to get the prisoners to settle down, along with the prison authorities then. We visited. In fact, we were cheered. We were welcome on entering the prison compound. We spoke with the prisoners in Bay 2, and we had a good engagement with them. But on moving over to Bay 1, the discussion which in Bay 2 had revolved around the overarching issues of the prisoners, delays in court hearings and all those other issues. At Bay 1, it degenerated to individualistic issues. Person said things like, I cuffed a man and he dropped down dead and I have been charged for murder. Or me and a man had a fight and I chopped him and he died and I'm in prison for murder. And my case is not being heard and I'm waiting 3 months, 5 years or whatever on remand. And so Bay 1 was fairly agitated. While we were at Bay 1, a few of the prisoners at the back in the other bays, 3 and 4 particularly, started to shy Sand Creek blocks. Well, pelted. So they got very unruly and we exited the prison. On exiting the prison, they continued shying these blocks both inside and outside of the prison, and we decided to leave at that point in time because the missiles were coming over the prison gate and people had to duck for cover. In any event, we were aware just on leaving that the prison guards in the restricted part of the prison compound had to rush out of the prison compound and slam shut the main gates. And that there were bricks and stuff being thrown at them and at the gate and outside. The understanding I have so far, and I meant no disrespect to this Honorable House by not making a statement on the matter even yesterday, was because I was waiting on some additional information from the prison directorate, which I had intended to give a statement tomorrow. But my understanding is that the prison guards went in and occupied the towers too, and they had broken down the fence, the prisoners that is, and in an effort to restore order, while being under attack, shots were fired. The result was 7 prisoners were injured, 2 died in the compound. The 3 persons injured were retained at Lusignan itself, and 2 were taken to the Georgetown Hospital. The loss of life is in any event regrettable and sad. But I would have to say that my understanding was that the final perimeter of the prison was under attack and was being besieged, along with the prison warders, and they took the measures necessary to make sure that we don't have a resumption of problems we've had in the past in relation to the outbreaks of prisons. We have to pay attention to the fact that amongst these prisons, and I said they are intermixed, that you have persons who have nothing to lose, and that when they are intermixed with other low-level prisoners, the low-level prisoners are forced to do or follow pattern, do the things which the leader of the gang or whatever is encouraging or having them to do. In relation to the issues of failures of administration at all levels, I think we could speak to that at a later date when we have a proper review at the appropriate level in respect to this incident. But I would just say that this matter, the precursors which led to this event didn't start 2-3 days ago. So when we have our proper review, I'll be happy to lay in this house or make a further statement on this matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister, I think the third part of the question dealt with the COVID issues.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Speaker and honorable members. At the moment, the total number of prisoners who are infected with COVID are 140 persons. We have moved 80 of them to Madawini location with the appropriate security from the police, the prisons, and the army. We were, at the very time that the incident happened at Lusignan, we were expanding an area to the east of the Lusignan prison to put up tents and put in place cots and new beds for the social distancing in relation to those who would have been left behind. That work was peremptorily stopped as a result of the events on Saturday. It was resumed yesterday morning. It is on the way, and I anticipate by tomorrow that we will be in a better position to move some of those prisoners who are in the holding bills over to that area, and perhaps to bring back the infected ones to Lusignan.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Ms. Gita Chandan, Edmund.
Thank you once again, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, question 2 is very specific. Can you state the nature and the extent of the injuries of the prisoners and their cause or causes of death?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, honorable member. I did see the number of prisoners who were killed. Those are 2 in number. 5 were injured. The nature and extent will have to be determined based on autopsy reports. I do not have those as yet. And the reports from the prison authorities will detail the nature and the extent of those injuries.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Ms. Gita Chandan.
Mr. Speaker, I'll yield to my colleague, the Honorable Ms. Henry.
Honorable Member, Dr. Nicholas Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I listened to the response being given by the Minister, and I'm standing here in relation to question 3, which is very specific, and asks what measures were implemented in keeping with the World Health Organization and FAO's guidance as it relates to persons who are in detention and prison facilities for COVID-19. The minister would have acknowledged the severe risk of COVID-19 in prisons and detention settings, with some 140 prisoners being infected at one facility. Can the minister confirm that preventative efforts are being taken at other facilities across this country? And can he say how the response would incorporate at least 4 of the minimum requirements? The first one being reduction of overcrowding. Secondly, ensuring the health, safety, and human dignity not only of the prisoners, but the staff at the
Honorable
prison.
Member Dr. Henry. Honorable Member Dr. Henry, I just want to bring your attention to the question itself. That
Yes,
is
sir.
the issue at the said prisons, right?
Yes,
But
sir.
here we are dealing with Lusignan.
Lusignan. Thank
So,
you.
if we can confine, I think the minister did answer about some of the others. So let's give him a chance to answer. On this standing order, 18 honorable members, I'm allowing the 2 supplemental questions. This is the final one.
But thank you.
Conclude, honorable.
Thank you. I wish to conclude. I ask that the minister please provide specifically what recommendations from the World Health Organization and PAHO is being implemented at the Lusignan prison as we speak at this time. And those I would want to say must have the areas of overcrowding addressed, the areas of continued preventative service for those prisoners that have medical conditions that are pre-existing. It must also take into account the human dignity and well-being, not only of the prisoners, but the prison officers and other staff at that facility. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable member. Honorable member, the Minister of...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the honorable member for any genuine interest she has in the issue being discussed. In respect of the measures, the first-line measures being done or being practiced in relation to the COVID pandemic, I had asked and we had also received and provided the masks, the washing materials, the fluids and all other things for all the prisons, including Lusignan. So that's the first thing. Those articles and measures which are in place at Lusignan are also in place at the other prisons. It might have escaped the honorable member that I did speak to the issues in relation to the congestion, which we found and which you are actively dealing with at the time that this event took place. So I don't want to repeat those again. But I want the honorable member to rest assured, based on what I said on Thursday, and on what I'm saying even now, that we are taking active measures to create space that is secure and safe, not only for the prisoners, but for the public, in respect of this matter.
Thank you, honorable member. Respect.
Mr. Speaker, am I allowed to ask the minister a question?
Honorable member, Minister of Parliamentary Affairs.
Am I allowed to ask a question, please? Honorable Minister, could you say when, do you know, or the date when the United Nations body visited Lusignan and condemned the prison unless urgent and remedial action was taken to improve the conditions? Do you know what year that was, sir? Could you please tell this House?
Honorable Minister of Home Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable member, I cannot tell you the date, but I'm aware it was condemned. I'm aware that and you could perhaps help me with the date. And also, I could say And I thought I impressed on the House since last Thursday, and it was reported in the press and on social media, that a visit was made and we were taking immediate steps to deal with the issue. And that since Thursday, when we had a discussion at the level of the presidency and the cabinet, we have already allocated funds and taken steps to deal with the matter even now and before this incident happened. And we will intend to have in the result a new and modern facility for prisoners at Lusikland.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Mr. Clerk.
Questions and notice. Questions and notice. Statements by ministers, including policy statements. Personal explanations. Request for leave to move the adjournment of the National Assembly on definite matters of urgent public importance. Motions relating to the business or sittings of the National Assembly and moved by a minister. Introduction of bills, public business, government's business. Introduction of bills.
Honorable Minister of Public Works.
Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly Auctioneers Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 2 of 2020, a bill intituled an act to amend the Auctioneers Act, and I move that the bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Auctioneers Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 2 of 2020.
Honorable Minister of Public Works.
Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly Corporations Tax Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 3 of 2020, a bill intituled an act to amend the Corporations Tax Act, and I move that the bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Corporation Tax Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 3 of 2020.
Honorable Minister of Public Works.
Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly Hucksters Licensing and Control Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 4 of 2020, a bill intituled an act to amend the Hucksters Licensing and Control Act, and I move that the bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Hucksters Licensing and Control Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 4 of 2020.
Honorable Minister of Public Works.
Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly Income Tax Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 5 of 2020, a bill intituled an act to amend the Income Tax Act, and I move that the bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Income Tax Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 5 of 2020.
Honorable Minister of Public Works.
Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly Intoxicating Liquor Licensing Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 6 of 2020, a bill intituled an act to amend the Intoxicating Liquor Licensing Act, and I move that the bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Intoxicating Liquor Licensing Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 6 of 2020.
Honorable Minister of Public Works.
Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly Miscellaneous Licenses Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 7 of 2020, a bill intituled an act to amend the Miscellaneous License Act, and I move that the bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Miscellaneous License Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 7 of 2020.
Honorable Minister of Public Works.
Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly Tax Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 8 of 2020, a bill intituled an act to amend the Tax Act, and I move that the bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Tax Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 8 of 2020.
Honorable Minister of Public Works.
Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly Value Added Tax Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 9 of 2020, a bill intituled an act to amend the Value Added Tax Act, and I move that the bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Value Added Tax Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 9 of 2020.
Honorable Minister of Home Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 10 of 2020, a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Act, and I move that the bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2020, Bill number 10 of 2020, Public Business, Government's Business.
Honorable members, the Assembly will resolve itself into Committee of Supply to continue consideration of the estimates of expenditure for the year 2020. Honorable members, we are now in Committee of Supply. Honorable members, we will now proceed in accordance with the subcommittee schedule. Honorable members, it is now 10:54, and as you can see, we are 54 minutes into what should have been the time allocated, or the time slot allocated for consideration of these estimates. It's IMF, it's Manzoor's fault. Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, your support staff.
Mr. Chairman.
Honorable Member, Mr. Roy Guilford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for recognizing me. Mr. Chairman, I wish to raise as a matter of concern and as a query the issue of the consideration in the Committee of Supply in relation to the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance. This issue, Mr. Chairman, and the substance of the issue would have been considered by the last speaker in the last session of this Assembly. I wish to point out, Mr. Chairman, that under the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act, there's a requirement for the budget agencies to be reflected in a schedule to that act. My research, my investigations would have revealed that the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance has not been so gazetted. Mr. Chairman, in the official report, the Hansard of the 24th of August 2015, this point was raised and advanced by the very Mr. Shearer, the Honorable Minister, and by Mr. Nandalal, Honorable Member, as he then was. And their objections are recorded at pages 3 and 4 of the Hansard of that date, and at pages 68, there's a statement of the Speaker in relation to this issue, and I believe at pages 8 and 9 also. So I don't believe, Mr. Chairman, have a regard not only to the previous ruling, but to what is the law, that we could properly this morning proceed to consider the estimates in relation to the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, which has not been gazetted.
Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance.
Sir, we're in Committee of Supply, so I'm not sure how you're allowing this question. But in the Gazette of September the 11th, 2020, Gail Teixeira, Minister and Member of Cabinet, Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, matters and groups of matters under that ministry, and the Ministry of Department called the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance. So, sir, this is the official Gazette. It is available. I'm sure the Parliament can provide it to you. And this is the page reference. It's 1607, I believe, and 1608.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs. Honorable members, we shall now proceed.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I find this response by the Honorable Minister most unacceptable and most misleading.
Honorable member, the Speaker had ruled that we now proceed to pages 120 and 121. Thank you. We, honorable members, I propose the question that the sum stated for Agency 6, Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Program 061, Policy Development and Administration, current expenditure, stands part of the estimate. We are page 120 and 121. The question has been proposed. Honorable member, I am still trying to remember all of the seating assignments and the names, so please forgive me. Honorable member, go ahead. Honorable member, Ms. Globespan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 6116, contracted employees. I see there's a total of 7. I would just like to know what would be the designation of these contracted employees and the new.
Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs.
The Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs has at home right now. The building is being prepared, and so we're working out of
Honorable Minister, could you speak up a little bit?
Beg your pardon?
Could you speak up a bit?
You can't hear me? Now? Is that better? You're not hearing me?
Now we hear you.
Now?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. The Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs is presently occupying a room in the Office of the President. It will have its building that is being repaired, and so it is not a ministry within the Office of the President, it is a ministry outside, so it's not a department or the Office of the Prime Minister as before. Secondly, contracted workers, we have taken over 3 or 4 staff members who were part of the Office of the Prime Minister to be part of this new ministry, and that we also have identified the persons to be the confidential secretary to the minister, the personal assistant, and the technical people, one of whom will be transferred from Parliament Office to assist me, and also a legal officer, and that would probably come from the Attorney General's chambers. So in regard to that the budget was put in so to allow us to start working, and for the staff that's already hired and in Office of the President who will be working with me and who have been working with me since I've taken up the post, that they would continue to get paid.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Ms. Globespan.
Thank you so much, Chair. And follow up, I did not hear the designation of the staff.
Could you speak up a bit?
The designation and the enumeration that is being taken
Honorable
for the
Minister.
staff members.
The designations and the remuneration, well, they're public service ones as far as I'm advised. As it's a new ministry, it has to get an accounts clerk, confidential secretary, the personal assistant. These are the 2 positions for a minister to have as their personal secretariat. Driver for the ministry, outside of the driver that works with me, and that also an office assistant and a legal officer. As I said, that person will probably be transferred from the Attorney General's chambers.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Mahi Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A follow-up. Did I hear correctly that the Honorable Minister is saying that these staff, the 7 staff, will be public servants that are taken from other ministries? Or are you going to advertise for them?
As I said, the ones that are already in the public service would be kept in the public service. Who are already in the public service, the ones who are in the OPM, who were in the former OPM, in the Office of the President, as well as hopefully the person from Parliament and the person from the Attorney General's chambers. The confidential secretary and the personal assistants are mine. They're on contract, as is the practice with all the ministers for quite a long time.
Honorable, thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Mahi Paul.
So, Mr. Chair, if I am correct, the 7 contracted employees that is listed here is not really the 7 contracted employees that will be for the ministry. There will be public servants also that will fall under, I'm guessing, 6111 that is not reflected.
Honorable Minister.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Maipal, for bringing that out. Because the persons I'm absorbing from the OPM, they are on the pension, they are on the public service, but they're in contract that I am over. I found them like that, and I'm taking them like that with me. So they have positions that are in the, PSM, but they are contracted. So as they're on contract already, they all come with me. And so that's why they're under contracted workers, although they hold public service positions.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Mahi Paul.
So, Mr. Chairman, I am guided that these workers are public service commission workers. They are removed from one ministry to the other, which in my understanding is a transfer. My question is, did the right protocol was the right protocol followed, which is an application to the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Public Service and granting it, and then it goes to the new ministry. Then the staff goes to the new ministry. Well informed.
Honorable Minister.
I found persons in the former OPM of the Prime Minister who were held public service positions, not appointed by the Public Service Commission, but holding public service positions who were in contract. And these are persons I have worked with for the last few weeks, and I would like to take with me. So that is why they're undercontracted. There are persons here who contracts are being sorted out, as well as I said, the request for the Attorney General for a lawyer to come from the chambers. I don't know if there be contract or public service commission appointees, I don't know. And that also the person from the Parliament is a person who will do the transfer, of course, with the approval of the PSM.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
And they're on contract, by the way.
If I'm understanding correctly, Honorable Minister, we're saying that the positions are
Public
officially
service positions.
from the Ministry of the Public Service, and that there is some of them who are filling these public service positions are contracted, and some are PSC, Public Service Commission appointed. But the positions have been cleared, whether they are contracted or PSC appointed. You have found them like that, and you have continued on like that. Thank you very much. Honorable Member, Mr. Mahipur.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Final question. So, could the Honorable Minister give the accurate number in terms of staffing details for this ministry, since it seems as though 7 is inaccurate?
Are you asking the staffing details or what has been approved for the different positions? Because staffing details could be the current staffing.
Mr. Chair, I'm asking from 6111 to 61.7.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance.
Yes, Mr. Honorable Member, this is a new ministry, and therefore it is starting off. These are the persons we would like to have on staff, and we can manage under this program for the next 3 months until we get ourselves fully going. So we don't need an enormous staff right now. We just need to set a number of things in train, get ourselves organized. Regrettably, the governance unit, which was under the Office of the Prime Minister, there are basically no files there, there are no records, there are no documents, and basically we have to start all over again. So a number of persons we do have to look for, and we have found. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I thought you said Honorable Member, Mr. Mahipur. That was the point.
Mr. Chair, I'll yield to my colleague, Mr. John.
You yield? I have to give whoever wants to speak permission. You can't yield. The control of this house is here. Thank you very much. But go ahead, and then I will take Mr.
Thank you, sir. I'm just trying to ascertain the number, because I see...
Thank you very much. You want to ascertain the number. Honorable Minister, he wants to ascertain the number.
The number under this program?
The number of staff.
The box says 7. What more can I say?
Thank you very much.
It's 7, unless you include me, and that's 8.
Honorable Member, Mr. Jermaine Figueroa.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Line item 6284, orders. Can the Honorable Minister inform the House what this allocation will be used for?
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Mr. Honorable Member, thank you. 6284 under this caters for, if required, technical consultancies that we have to report on treaties, our treaty obligations, and preparation of international reports. This is in addition to the staff, because we have found that a number of the treaty reports are not up to date, and that in order to bring ourselves up to date as quickly as possible, we may have to bring in consultants specifically to work on specific reports that are outstanding right now.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Mahipur.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hear the Honorable Member on the ministry being new, and they're trying to set up and ensure that everything is in order for the 3 months before they start actual hard work or operation from January onwards. But I noticed on the line item 6271, telephone and internet charges, there is a whopping $1 million bill. My question is that amount for the minister's cell phone?
Honorable
No,
Minister.
sir, it is not. My cell phone based on the arrangements which were in place under the former government, is paid through the normal arrangements with Parliament. This is, a lot of our work will be through internet connections and connectivity, and caters, the building we're going into does not have all the facilities and phones required, so we have to get those installed, we have to get Blaze installed, etc. So part of this cost also involves the cost of setting up the building. It's a small building, but nevertheless, we rely on Wi-Fi, and we will throughout this period.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Ms. Ferguson, you have your question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I turn our attention to line item 6302, training and including scholarship. I know that the honorable member informed us that this is a new ministry, but can the honorable member explain to us what would be the training for these 7 staff, and whether it will be locally done?
Honorable Minister.
I was advised that it might be a good idea to include this $50,000 to cater for any training in Microsoft Office Suite for administrative purposes, to upgrade what staff we have and we're taking over, and also if any are brought in to ensure that we're up to date. So this was put in as a small amount, as I'm sure if it's not used, it will be returned to the consultant.
Honorable, thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, I think it's Campbell? No? Philadelphia, sorry. Honorable Member, Ms. Philadelphia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I recognize on the 6242 maintenance of buildings. Can the honorable member explain to us how this line item is working?
Honorable Minister.
Because there was no budget, and the building, as you might know, has not been occupied for a while. It was the former residence of the Minister Dr. Rupert Ryan. It then became the COVID Secretariat under Mr. Harmon, and therefore the building. So we're just doing some basic work now with the limited funds, in particularly with electricity and wiring the building to bring us up to standard. And then this amount will be in the budget that's requested for 2020 to allow us to continue some of the maintenance work that we don't have money to do right now. And that is, as it says, replacing of lights and other fixtures, general painting, and repairs to a number of the surface defects in the building, or in the compound, sorry.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 6281, I recognize the honorable member speak to a new office, but on the 6281, I recognize there's a 0 there. I don't know what system is in place, or if it's an oversight or a mistake or what, but are we taking security guard from other agencies or entities?
But if there is a 0, Honorable Member, we don't allow question. Right? You have to find some other way where there is a number assigned, and then we can raise the question. Honorable members, I think this is a good time to put the question that the sum stated for Agency 6, Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Program 061, Policy Development and Administration, current expenditure stands part of the estimates. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The sum stated will form part of the estimates. Can we turn to page 630? Honorable members, I propose the question that the sum stated for Agency 6, Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Program 061, Policy Development and Administration, Capital Expenditure, form part of the estimate. Honorable Member, Mr. Mahipal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Project Code 2407300, Land and Water Transport. I see in the legends the purchase of a motorcycle. I ask, what type of motorcycle are we purchasing for $370,000? And what is the purpose of the motorcycle?
Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, could you give me a minute? I'm dropping things all over the place. Sorry. Sorry about that, for that delay. This is for the motorcycle for the office assistant.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Mahipal.
Mr. Chair, I did ask the type of motorcycle and if the Honorable Member could provide the CC of the engine.
Honorable Minister.
Whichever is the cheapest and the safest.
Honorable Member, Mr. Mahipal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can ride motorcycle. I used to ride a motorcycle, and I know that the cheapest motorcycle.
You want the job as office assistant to ride a bike?
Pardon?
Well, go ahead.
I know, Mr. Chair, that 110cc, which is one that can easily maneuver itself in Georgetown, and it's not really one that will entertain speed and entertain any form of danger. It will cost anything around $160,000 at Jiling, or if you go to Marix, it will cost anything around $170,000. So
you know,
I don't understand, Mr. Chair, how you can consider $370,000 for a cheap motorcycle as cheap.
Honorable Member, two observations with respect to the brands. We don't want anyone to accuse the National Assembly of promoting any particular brands. And I think this is the jeopardy which the Honorable Minister may have. But Honorable Minister, please. I think he's looking at
capacity. I really don't know what to say.
Yes.
It's an allocation for a motorcycle. We'll use a procurement process and we will purchase one that is user-friendly, it doesn't give off too much emissions, and that it's safe for the person riding it. I don't have a clue about motorcycles, and I will be advised by my people about what kind of motorcycle, but it'll be used around Georgetown. Obviously, if you're going out of town, we will then have a vehicle being used to take anything urgent out of town. So it's mainly to run around Georgetown. If I were going into Rupununi, I might buy what you call one of those big fancy ones that go in the savannas, but I don't need that in Georgetown.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. And just for the Honorable Member, the environmentalists say that two-stroke engines are the worst pollutants that we have, so you have to be very careful. Honorable Member, Ms. Philadelphia.
Thank you, Chair. 65122200, furniture and equipment. Can the Honorable Member list what will be purchased under this line item?
Before you answer, Honorable Minister, I just would like to ask Honorable Members if they can consult the other volume with respect to the capital expenditure. I think there are a lot of details in there which we can refer also. Honorable Minister, please. Honorable, yes, thank you.
Yes, we need, there is some furniture in the building that we will use, but we do need additional furniture. So the 6.5 million that is listed here, Honorable Member, caters for 5 desktops, which include a desktop for me, desktop computers that is, for myself, for a confidential secretary, a personal assistant, the legal officer, and the accounts clerk. We also have 1 laptop for the legal officer, 1 photocopier, work center, which includes a colored primer printer, and that would be, I believe, around 2.2 million. One laserjet printer, small, 2 L-shaped desks, 4 office desks, 5 ergonomic chairs for the minister, legal officer, accounts clerk, confidential secretary, and personal assistant. We have about 5 guest chairs for when people come to the ministry, 2 external hard drives. We need fireproof cabinets for our documents, and so forth, that kind of thing. Filing cabinets, bookcase, those are what's required.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I think this is a good time to put the question that the sum stated for Agency 6, Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Program 061, Policy Development and Administration, Capital Expenditure, forms part of the estimates. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The sum stated now forms part of the estimates. Can we now turn to pages 122 and 123 of the current expenditure? I propose the question that the sum stated for Agency 6, Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Program 062, Parliamentary Affairs, current expenditure, forms part of the estimates. Honorable Mr. Mahito.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, line item 6116. I see in the staffing details 1 contracted employee and the sum of 1,165,000. I'm assuming that is for the 3 months period at a cost of roughly $390,000 per month. May I ask the designation of this contracted employee?
Honorable Minister, Parliamentary Affairs and Governance.
This is a person who will then support in parliamentary support work. Parliamentary support officer. Their salary be $270 approximately per month, plus non-taxable duty allowance. And so these numbers were suggested as advice to put in as we may need additional support for the parliamentary person. But you're correct. This is for 3 months, and therefore the money would be slightly more than what is required. I accept that.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, this is a good time to put the question that the sum stated for Agency 6, Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Program 062, Parliamentary Affairs, current expenditure, stands part of the estimates. Those in favor say aye. Those against, the ayes have it. The sum stated thus forms part of the estimates. Can we now turn to page 630, the capital expenditure for this program? And I propose the question that the sum stated for Agency 6, Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Program 062, forms part of the estimates. This is a good time to put a question.
Mr. Chair.
The Honorable Member, Mr. Mahipal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see project code 2512-200, furniture and equipment, to the tune of $1 million. And I do recognize when we were considering the current expenditures for 1 staff, are we purchasing $1 million in furniture and equipment for 1 staff?
Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance.
Mr. Speaker, I'm a rather modest person when it comes to decorating my office and buying furniture, etc. So This is to set up the parliamentary section within the ministry, the parliamentary support section. And so right now, we need a desktop computer, we need desk, we need chair, a filing cabinet, a bookshelf, and stuff like that. So these are basic things that are required. If we can get them at a cheaper price, obviously, better yet. But these are very simple and basic things required for a staff member to be able to function. As I said, in the first capital we did, that was generally for the entire office. The printers, the copiers will be used by everybody. But this is for the staff member who will work on parliamentary work.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Mahifor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A follow-up. Is it a fair conclusion to say that this ministry will be usurping the authority and the function?
Honorable Member, Mr. Mahipal, could you, honorable members, I'm on the floor. Could you please identify the line items?
Mr. Chair, it's a follow-up on the same line item.
Mr. McCoy, we have certain decorum. I understand shouting might not comply with that decorum. Honorable Member, Mr. Mahipal.
Mr. Chair, it is a follow-up from the same line item in terms of what the minister would have answered and said, that the equipment and the furniture are basically to do parliamentary affairs work. So I'm inquiring if it's a fair conclusion that this department will be usurping the work of the Parliament office.
Honorable Minister.
I find it a great stretch of the imagination, Mr. Mayapol, to think that I would dare, or I could dare, or dream to try to undermine the independence of the Parliament office. It is, and if you read volume 2, page 77, which gives the explanation of the ministry and gives what the different programs will do, as well as objectives. It talks about being able to do government business and parliamentary matters with regards to the whole issue of what comes to Parliament. If we have bills that need to have consultations on, either the sectoral ministers will do it, or if it's a comprehensive issue that requires many sectors, that is what we would do as a ministry. We're trying to uphold Article 13 of the Constitution of inclusion, and therefore the issue of lawmaking doesn't happen here only. The process to reach here takes time. And I would certainly not accept any kind of accusation I'm trying to override or take over the Parliament office of this country.
Thank you, Honorable
A follow-up, Mr.
Minister.
Chair.
Honorable Member, Mr. Mahipol.
A follow-up, Mr. Chair. So am I to assume that the office of the parliamentary opposition will also have access to this office?
Sir, that is not a problem for me personally, nor is a problem for this government. If you need assistance from the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs within our competency, we will give you. If you come and protest and broke up the place, I'm not going to help you at all.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. This is a good time to put the question that the sum stated for Agency 6, Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Program 062, Parliamentary Affairs, Capital Expenditure, forms part of the estimates. Those in favor say aye. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The sum thus stated now forms part of the estimates. Can we go back to current expenditure? Pages 124 and 125. I propose the question that the sum stated for Agency 6, Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Program 063, Governance, current expenditure, forms part of the estimates. Honorable Member, is that Mr. Ramsarup? Thank you very much, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the line item 6116, contracted employees, can the Honorable Minister state the designation of these two individuals and what they will be doing?
Honorable Minister.
This relates, sir, to research officer for the ministry and other technical staff that we need from in getting set up. I want to set up data systems and ways of storing our research and information in a modern way, and so we need assistance that we'll bring in people to help in this area. But the first thing is the research office.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Viceroy Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Follow up on line item 6116. Could the Honorable Minister please state the salaries for these persons?
Honorable Minister.
And other benefits.
The salary of research officer, 324,587 per month, 10,000 non-taxable duty allowance, 10,000 non-taxable traveling allowance, and 5,000 non-taxable telephone allowance.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Ms. Bonanz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Under line item 6321, subsidies and contributions to local organizations, could the Honorable Minister please give us a breakdown of how that 25,074,000 will be spent? Thank you.
Honorable Minister, Parliamentary Affairs.
626. Yeah, this is 6322, right? Yeah, this is, sorry, 6231. This is the Integrity Commission that comes under the ministry. Of course, it is separate, but their budget is 25,740. They did, sorry, 25 million, beg pardon. So that they come under here. This is the only body that's under there. And this caters for them for the 3 months remaining of the year, as they had received part of a subvention prior to this, and from under the office of the Prime Minister. So this is to cover them for the 3 years. So they received 43 million so far, and they will be receiving the balance 25,774 in this period, in the new period, October, December.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Matthew Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I don't want to draw the wrong conclusion. So line item 6284, other, with a sum of 500,000. Can the Honorable Minister please break that down?
The 500,000, sir, is to start some of the virtual consultations on the Constitution and the electoral reforms. Because of COVID, we have not budgeted for physical in situ consultations with stakeholders, but we have budgeted for being able to have virtual conferences, virtual meetings over the next 3 months to kickstart the work on the constitutional reform and electoral reform. Of course, the Attorney General's Chambers and the Minister of Legal Affairs leads on this. And my role in this as the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs is to assist with the coordination and the consultation process to make sure that the largest body of people are involved. So we're starting to set this work up and to set up a framework. But we put in 500,000 for virtual conferences in this short period ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Holder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the previous program, we saw $1 million for telephone bills, telephone charges. So line item 6271, I noticed another $100,000 allocated here again. So my question is, if this allocation is for the cell phones of these two staff?
Honorable Minister.
I'm advised that this is for the 3 months ahead of us, and so this would cover telephone charges, because remember, some of the persons who are contracted get a telephone allowance as well. So I believe that this would cater for some of these issues. But it's for 3 months, and therefore it should do.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Holder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So is the minister confirming that these are for the cell phone for the two staff? Because we had $1 million in telephone charges already for the building and so forth. So these are for cell phone.
These are for the phones, both land and cell phones, but because remember, we can buy what you call the phone cards that are also can be used by staff members. And so in that sense, it can also lead to some level of controls, but also to ensure that your staff, which is a small staff in this case, are easily accessible and don't have any reason for not being able to answer the phone because they have no data or no connection.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, this is a good time to put the question that the sum stated for Agency 6, Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance Program 063, current expenditure, now forms part of the estimates. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The sum thus stated now forms part of the estimates. If we can turn to page 630, capital expenditure, I propose the question that the sum stated for Agency 6, Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Program 063, Governance, Capital Expenditure, now stands part of the estimates. Honorable members, I put the question that the sum stated for Agency 6, Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Program 063, Governance, now stands part of the estimates. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The sum stated thus forms part of the estimates. The Assembly thanks the Minister and her staff for guiding us through these estimates. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister and staff. Honorable members, we will turn to the Ministry of Indigenous Affairs, that head, and we invite the Honorable Minister and staff to assist us. We are turning to page 168 and 169. Thank you, honorable members. In fact, it's a good time to just make an observation on dress codes. I think the dress codes are well stated in the standing orders, along with the Speaker's rulings, and shortly I'll make a ruling with respect to displays in the House. Thank you. We are forming some conventions. Honorable members, I propose a question that the sum stated for Agency 17, Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Program 171, Policy Development and Administration, current expenditure, thus forms part of the estimates. I propose the question. Honorable Member, Ms. Dawn Hastings Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to draw attention to line item 6254, vehicle spares and services. That is cost. That will be
6254.
6264, sorry, vehicle spares and services that will cost to the tune of 12 million. Can the Honorable Minister tell this House how many vehicles are in the fleet presently and the type of vehicles?
Honorable Minister of Amerindian Affairs.
Are we at 168, Mr. Speaker? What?
Page 169.
160.
We have page 168 and 169. That's the head. The heads are covered under that particular program, covered under those two pages.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, that question is for the 17.
You withdraw, the honorable member withdraws the question. Thus, I put the question that the sums. Sorry, honorable member, Mr. Figueroa.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Line item 6111, administrative. We have seen an increase of over 6 million. Could the Honorable Minister inform the House what this money will be used for?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm told that the increase was caused by the removal of staff from the contractual system to the permanent establishment system.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Charlie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Line item 6291, national and other events. For the Honorable Minister disaggregate to the Honorable House, they incurred expenditure as it relates to this line item. And also, if the Minister can say if the refreshments for the VIP was catered for and paid under this line item. If yes, what was the amount disbursed from this line item?
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the amount that was used was catered for the MASH observances and observances of posting NPC. With respect to the question of what were these sums used for, Mr. Speaker, it speaks to purchasing of drugs and medical supply for incidents that may occur during the events, the supply of 40 female polo shirts, the provision of meals for participants, and I believe here is where the honorable member wants to inquire into meals for VIPs, etc. It was a total of $481,250. And if the honorable member wants me to go through the remaining expenditure, it's rental of tents and portable toilets for usage for MOIPA MASH event, the purchase of flags and buntings, the procurement of disposable items for MASH celebration, the purchase of beverages,
the supply of full costume for small band category, the costume for the MASH King and Queen. With respect to small band costume group, again, it includes the costume for the band in the small category, the inclusion of the King and Queen costumes, the payment to 5 primary school dancers to perform at the MASH celebration, the supply of beverages to facilitate the hosting of the retreat for participants on MASH event, the transportation of participants return to St. Cuthbert's Mission following the MASH events, the supply of snacks for the hosting of participants' retreat by the MOIPA MASH activities, the design of the production of individual costumes for MOIPA MASH events, the hire of bus for the transportation of St. Cuthbert's Mission and community of Swan after the celebration. Mr. Speaker, the rental of items and portable toilets for the usage at the MASH celebration event, the payment of individual for the participating in the MASH events, the hire of sound system and the truck for the MASH events, providing sweetmeats in recognition of the national holiday, supply of lunches for MOAAA staff members in the celebration. Now this one has to do with Emancipation Day. The provision of transportation and persons from Low Creek to Linden Highway to Georgetown after the inaugural activity. With respect to Hinterland scholarship participation in MASH, the production of the video of the scholarship student participating in the children costume, purchase of beverages for scholarship student, the hire of a music system for the student activity, the payment for the design and supply of the Hinterland scholarship student costume for MASH float parade, the payment of the designer with respect to designing the scholarship students' costume for the MASH and float parade. Mr. Speaker, the provision of transportation for Hinterland scholarship students to participate in the MASH costume parade. And of course, they also have an expenditure payment for the provision for the photographers to ensure that they capture the activities.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Deputy Speaker, Mr. Schuman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would the Honorable Minister, I see that line 6265 has a quantum of 56,783,000 for travel expenses. Would the Honorable Minister be so kind to enlighten this House as to who utilized their travel expenses and for if there's a possible breakdown of the time period for that expenditure?
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the expenditure caters for the hinterland traveling, land, water, and air, for management development officers, the community development officers, the welfare officers who monitor villages, the ministerial team outreaches. Additionally, it caters for the postage of capital items and the return of patients to their respective villages. With respect to the details, if the honorable member would like to have the details that he wanted to know, I am willing to provide that to the House. Mr. Speaker, 176,000 was spent in air transportation for outboard engines into the Bikichi airstrip for Region 1 villages. The reimbursement of funds for the visit made by the minister's personal assistant to St. Denis, Tapakuma. The reimbursement for expenses incurred by the Vice President and his team to Kabakaburi and Karawab, the provision of air transport for transporting capital items, the air transport for the minister and team to attend the opening of the Bina Hill Green Enterprise at Anai. That cost $822,375. Air transportation for the minister and team to Madhya and Paramakatoi to conduct ministerial outreaches in February 2020, $382,420. The additional air transportation for minister and team to attend the opening of the Bina Hill Green Enterprise. This is an additional expense incurred of $145,126. The payment of air transportation to Port Kaituma, $68,000. Reimbursement of funds for staff airfare from Paramakatoi to Georgetown during the month of July. Reimbursement of fund for airfare for staff during the month of August. The airfare for senior social worker during the month of May. Mr. Speaker, the airfare for patients during the month of January. The airfare for patients for the month of January. The airfare for 9 patients for the month of January, and I can give you the totals, Mr. Chairman, if they so desire. The airfare for 16 patients returning to Mabaruma, Cameron, etc. in the month of January. The transportation for patients from Georgetown to their respective village. And the list goes on as it relates to transportation of patients. These are not the only expenses, but the majority of the amount is used to return patients.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Deputy Speaker, follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I heard the Honorable Minister's presentation on the numbers. Would the Honorable Minister be so kind to enlighten this House as to how much of that $56+ million were used for so-called ministerial outreaches post, I'd say, March 2nd?
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, for the VP and team, $1,966,000.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Would you like me to give him the figures for the other expenses as a summary or subtotal? I'm going to do that.
Honorable Deputy. If the Honorable Minister would be so kind to lay it over, I'd appreciate that. Mr. Chair, I look at line item 6284. I see there's a quantum there of 540,000. Under other, would the Honorable Minister be so kind to enlighten this House as to what the components of the other constitute?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, 6284 consists of expenses to support families and patients with difficult circumstances, burials, and medical treatment. Example, CT scans, ultrasound, MRI, and cancer treatments. The estimate also caters for repairs to office furniture, photocopying, binding of documents, and advertisements. It also caters for 4 paid staff retained as a skeleton staff since 2019.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. The Honorable Member, Dr. Expenditure Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With respect to line item 6117, temporary employees, can the Honorable Minister tell this Honorable House what constitutes temporary employees and if those employed are for 2020 alone?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the temporary employees, according to the explanation or my advice from my technical staff, are those who were brought on board in late 2019 into 2020. They were placed into the various regions of the country, and they are retained on a month-to-month contract.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Yes, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to draw the Honorable Minister's attention to line 6321. There is, in that line, 52,370,000. Would the Honorable Minister be so kind to enlighten this House as to what that entailed for subsidies and contributions to local organizations? Maybe we could understand who those local organizations are.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the contribution on the 6321 is provided for expenses by Bean Hill in the year. So far, in the 9 months, Bean Hill has received $26,228,683. The Kanuka Mountain Community Representative Group, they have received for the 9 months $3,001,336, and the NTC for the 9 months January to current has received $12,326,687.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Is it the Honorable Member, Mr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. With reference to line item 6131, ordered directly because we would have seen an increase from last year by almost 400%. I'd like to ask the Honorable Minister if some explanation can be given, and then I have one other follow-up.
Do you have a follow-up, or do you want to state both questions?
Yeah, sure. Reference to line item 6255, which talks about maintenance of infrastructure. You see a decrease there, if I can get an explanation as well. And if this is a testimony of the good infrastructure work.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. With respect to 6131, the increase I'm advising was for acting allowances for 3 staff.
Honorable Member, Ms. Pearson.
Mr. Chair, line item 6302, training including scholarship. For the Honorable Minister, say to the House what training took place for the year 2020 and who are the beneficiaries of these scholarships. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the estimate caters for 600 hinterland scholarship students, which the ministry has in its responsibility per year. It includes pocket allowances, uniform allowances, guardian allowances, dorm allowances.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member.
For the sake of the House, the scholarship program has been a continuous one since 1992.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Line item 6261, local travel and subsistence. To the Honorable Minister, a whopping 36 million was expended under this line item in 2019, and in 2020, January to July, 9.5 was already expended. Could the Honorable Minister explain to this House what the traveling was for, and if the VP expended this allocation? Why I'm saying this, Mr. Chairman, it's because Parliament was dissolved, and I take it over to the Minister.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, local travel and subsistence take care of the Management and Development Officer, the ministerial outreaches, the welfare officer, etc. But I would provide the details as he was interested with respect to the minister's travel. Mr. Speaker, the minister expended $3,175,490 during the period of January 2020 to the 22nd of April 2020.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. This is a good time to put the question that the sum stated. Sorry, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Mr. Chair, thank you. The last question for the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, there is a marked increase of 12 additional staff from 2019 to 2020. Would the Honorable Minister enlighten this House as to the staff and what their specific portfolios are?
Mr. Speaker, Is the honorable member asking about the staffing details, or is he asking a question on a particular line item? Just want to clear that up before I ask.
Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the Honorable Minister, as in the staffing details. Thank you.
Thank you,
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, at 6117, there was an increase of 12 officers, and those were the officers I referred to who were contracted on a month-to-month as temporary employees, and they were contracted from within the region for the period running up to 2019 and 2020.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, this is a good time to put a question that the sum stated for Agency 17, Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Program 171, Policy Development and Administration. Current expenditure stands part of the estimates. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The sum thus stated now forms part of the estimates. I invite you to turn to page 639, Capital Expenditure. Honorable members, I propose the question that Agency 17, that the sum stated for Agency 17, Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Program 171, Policy Development and Administration, forms part of the estimates for the capital expenditure. Honorable Member, Mr. Charlie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Code 1214500, buildings. Mr. Chairman, I see here in the details clearly stated payment of retention, and this pertains to a rollover project. Could the Honorable Minister explain why in 2020 we have to pay retention when under the coalition government there wasn't always an early budget presented in the House for the incoming fiscal year? Mr. Chairman, could the Honorable Minister explain this? And we are in the 9th month, what the project was, and as it relates to the building, what the project entails.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the first amount of $7,480,000 is a payment, a retention payment for BK International, who was the contractor who constructed the student dorm at Lilliandale. With respect to the payment of $6,538,000, that is also retention that catered for the retention to JR Ranch Inc. for the construction of the Green Energy Development Center at Bean Hill. Mr. Speaker, for the purpose of the House and the Honorable Member, a total of $186,390,048 were attached to the student dorm at Lilliandale, and for the construction of the Green Energy Development Center at Bean Hill, $130,754,230. Indeed, I myself has noted that with respect to capital budget. Only the contractors were provided for, and villages were not provided with any provision under the capital for the 9 months.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, this is a good time to put the question that the sum stated for Agency 17, Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Program 171, Policy Development and Administration, Capital Expenditure, stands part of the estimates. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The sum stated now stands part of the estimates. Honorable members, this is a good time to say thanks to the Honorable Minister and her staff for guiding us through this particular agency. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister and staff. As the Minister and staff get themselves together, let the Assembly resume. Honorable members, this is a good time to take the suspension. We shall return at 1 p.m. to continue with the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs.